Okay. So first and foremost, I would like to thank you and congratulate you all for taking and sparing some of your time to come and celebrate. Because as Africans, the only thing that is going to help us to move forward and to have sustainable development is to work together, to hold hands, and to ensure that we move together in the right direction. So, as said earlier on, my name is Tanyara Zoguta. I'm from the Tanyara Zo Initiative, and I'll be your moderator for today together with Rubimbo. She's going to be my co-host for today, and I'm going to give her the time to also introduce yourself. Madame Rubimbo, are you in the house? Madame Rubimbo, can you hear me? Okay, that's fine. I'm sure that with the time she's going to be able to join us. So without further ado, we're going to get right into it. So before we start, we would like to bring to your attention a speech that was done by former President Thabo Mbeki that is named I Am Africa. So it's pretty long because it was a full speech that he was giving. So we just picked the first part only. So it reads, I am an African. I owe my being to the hills and the valleys, the mountains and the glass, the rivers, the deserts, the trees, the flowers, the seas, and the ever changing seasons that define the face of our native land. My body is frozen in our frost and in our latter day snows. It has thawed in the warmth of our sunshine and melted in the heat of the midday sun. The crack and the rumble of the summer thunders, lashed by the startling lightning, have been a cause both of trembling and of hope. The fragrances of nature have been as pleasant to us as the sight of the wild blooms of the citizens of the veld. The dramatic shapes of the Dunkensberg, the soil-colored waters of the Licor, the Noku, the Notukela, and the sands of the Galagadi have all been panels of the set of the natural stage on which we act out the foolish deeds of the theater of our day. At times and in fear, I have wondered whether I should concede equal citizenship of our country to the leopard and the lion, the elephant and the springbok, the hyena and the black mamba, and the pestilential mosquito. A human presence among all these, a feature on the face of our native land that's defined. I know that none dare challenge me when I say I am an African. So this is a very, very emotional speech that he did because we're just going to play a video for you so that you get a snippet of the whole speech. It's not the whole speech, you're just going to see the visuals such that you get to, you know, have the feel. So just a second.
I am an African. I owe my being to the hills and the valleys, the mountains and the glades, the rivers, the deserts, the trees, the flowers, the seas, and the ever-changing seasons that define the face of our native land. My body has frozen in our frosts and in our latter-day snows. It has thawed in the warmth of our sunshine and melted in the heat of the midday sun. The crack and the rumble of the summer thunders, lashed by startling lightning, have been a cause both of trembling and of hope. The fragrances of nature have been as pleasant to us as the sight of the wild blooms of the citizens of the veldt. The dramatic shapes of the dragon's back, the soil-colored waters of the Likwa, Iqeli, Notugek, and the sands of the Kalahari have all been panels of the set on the natural stage on which we act out the foolish deeds of the theater of the day. At times, and in fear, I have wondered whether I should concede equal citizenship of our country to the leopard and the lion, the elephant and the springbok, the hyena, the black mamba, and the pestilential mosquito. A human presence among all of these, a feature on the face of our native land just defined, I know that none dare challenge me when I say I am an African. I am the grandchild of the warrior men and women that incense Kukuni land. Patriots at Tetwayo and Mpepu took to battle. The soldiers Mushweshwe and Gumunyane taught never to dishonor the cause of freedom. I am the child of Nongause. I am he who made it possible to trade in the world markets in diamonds, in gold, in the same food for which our stomachs yearn. Being part of all of these people, and in the knowledge that none dares contest that assertion, I shall claim that I'm an African.
Okay, so that was President Thabo Mbeki delivering his speech. He was talking a lot about the things that make us identify ourselves as Africans. So first and foremost, one of the things that he mentioned was admiration of the amazing flora and fauna that is in Africa. You saw that he was mentioning the hills, the valleys, the flowers, the seas, and the seasons of Africa. But before I go much into that, I'm kindly requesting that we all rename our names. We all rename our names such that you put the name of your country at the top, like your name, and then you put the name of your country in front. If there's anything that you'd want to say, please feel free to also use the chat box. Okay, so I was bringing your attention to the poem by former President of the Republic of South Africa, I Am Africa. So the first thing that we notice is the admiration that he's giving to the amazing flora and fauna that is in Africa, because he mentioned the hills, the valleys, the flowers, the seas, and the seasons of Africa. So as Africans, those are some of the natural resources, God-given resources that we need to, accept and take care of, because Mama Africa has nature, has given us a lot of greenness, a lot of flora and fauna. So we are called to be responsible citizens. We are called to be responsible Africans. We are called to also do our part in as far as and as far as keeping these resources is concerned. So you can see that his statement does not only apply to South Africa, it also applies to the entirety of Africa. You see that there is Masai Mara in Kenya, which has 90 species of mammals such as wild beasts, zebras, gazelles, as well as 500 bird species. You see how blessed we are as Africans. And then we also talk about Chobe in Botswana, which is estimated to be the world's largest concentration with around 150,000 elephants that are living there. Ladies and gentlemen, 150,000 elephants in Botswana. And then we have Virunga in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the DRC. So Virunga is a UNESCO World Heritage State, and it has incredible wildlife such as the chimpanzees, the elephants, hippos, hyenas, and critically endangered mountain gorillas. Guys, I thought it was a myth that in Africa there are gorillas or chimpanzees. I thought they didn't even exist in Africa, but here we are saying in Virunga and the Democratic Republic of Congo there are chimpanzees and they are gorillas. And in the Serengeti in Tanzania, which has which is home for the big five, which means that at Serengeti in Tanzania, you find lions, you find elephants, leopards, rhinos, and buffaloes. They're all there. And it is said that Serengeti in Tanzania is the world's renowned safari, and it welcomes over 350,000 visitors each and every year. You see how rich the resources that are in Africa, the resources that we were given by the Creator. And we also have Zambezi River, which is the largest river in Africa that flows to the Indian Ocean. And the Zambezi River, it occupies 1,390,000 square kilometers. And the river flows through Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Namibia, Mozambique, Malawi, Botswana, and Angola. And then we have the Nile River that is in Africa, which is the longest river in the world with a length of 6,650 kilometers. It goes through countries like Egypt, Ethiopia, Sudan, Uganda, and Rwanda. And the Nile River is regarded as Egypt's lifeblood, as most of the settlements that are in Egypt are situated along this river. We also talk about mountains. We have Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania. To my South African neighbors, you know that song Kilimanjaro. We're going to play the YouTube video for you to know the song that's called Kilimanjaro. So in Africa, we have Mount Kilimanjaro, which is in Tanzania, which is the tallest mountain in Africa, and it is known as the roof of Africa. We also have Mount Kenya, which is the second highest in Africa, the second highest mountain in Africa. And Kenya's highest peak is also referred to as a place of light, right? And then besides this, because like I said, it's quite a long speech that was said by former President Thabo Mbeki. So the first thing that he mentioned was showing appreciation and admiration of the amazing flora and fauna that is in Africa. The second aspect that he mentioned was the struggle for liberation, because in Africa, you know that most of the countries of the 54 countries in Africa, only two were not colonized, which means the liberation and the independence that we are currently enjoying was because of a lot of bloodshed that actually happened. So in his speech, he paid tribute to the Khoisan. Who are the Khoisan? So the Khoisan are the first people to have lived in Southern Africa. So what happened to the Khoisan is they were living happily. They were the only people, indigenous people in Africa. And all of a sudden, they came German colonizers and they took their land, took their livestock, took everything. And they were actually laborers. They were now working for those colonizers. So they then came to the realization that, but this is our land. These people, they came and they occupied us, maybe taking advantage of the machinery or the weapons that they have. Let us rebel and get back and regain what belongs to us. So this then led to the rebellion, which led to what is called the Herero and Namakwa genocide, which led to the death of 10,000 people being killed during 1904 and 1907. So you see that there was a lot of bloodshed in Africa. And then still on the struggle for liberation, you also find out that in the 17th century, European countries, they scrambled for and they partitioned Africa. right? So this continued around 1905, by which time all of the land and resources of the continent of Africa had been completely divided and colonized by European countries. So the only country that couldn't be colonized due to strong resistance, the only countries that were not colonized due to strong resistance were Ethiopia and Liberia, but the rest of Africa was colonized and divided and partitioned. So the struggle for independence throughout Africa started after the World War II. And the road to African independence has been very hard. A lot of people were killed, a lot of torture, and a lot of collateral damage was done. There were a lot of bloody fights, revolts, and assassinations. And the liberty. So all this history, why are we mentioning it? And why did former President Thabo Mbeki mention it? It's because as Africans, you should know where you came from. It's part of your identity, right? So there is really no need for you to, look down upon yourself, because you come from a people who fought for the liberties that you have. You came from a point where someone died just for you to get the opportunity and the recognition. If these people, they hadn't stepped up, probably we wouldn't be living in nice houses or nice, we would be, there are no opportunities for growth or opportunities to be someone and be something in this life, because you're just an African. But it took a lot of blood, a lot of death, a lot of, revolts and assassinations for us to enjoy the current privileges that we have. So those who fought for our respective countries, they played their part. Now the button stick has been passed on to us to then see that the economic and political as well as social developments, to ensure that there is sustainable development. They played their part. It's now time for us to also do our part as Africans, right? And then the third thing that President Beki mentioned was the issue of slave trade. I think the issue of slave trade is something that we do not want to talk about, and it's something that is very emotional, because our brothers and sisters were sold into slavery, and it's really difficult for someone to just take you and you walk a lot of, a very long distance. Guys, these people, they walked from Africa all the way to Europe, walking by feet, and at times they were, walking through the rivers and the seas. A lot of people died, a lot of people were thrown from the, as Africans, those things, I know they're emotional, but they should really in they should deposit something, a fighting spirit within us, that if our ancestors or the people that were before us went through all this, there is really more that we should do. So, as I was saying, President Becky mentions the issue of slave trade, which was slave trade was a horrific trafficking of Africans as slaves to the Americas, Europe, and Middle East. So between 1500 AD and 1890 AD, over 22 million Africans were sold into slavery, and 70% of all Africans sold into slavery. 70% of all the Africans that were sold in slavery were transported by Portugal and Britain. And it's so sad that as slave trade was happening, African nations, they were actually taking part, right? And I think we see this in the movie Woman King, whereby there was King Gezo and the nation of Dahomey, and then the Agoji were now fighting since that it stops. So basically, it's so sad that African nations were taking part in facilitating the slave trade, or in the name of economic boost, or that. And you find out that some of the nations were Dahomey, which is now Benin, and then there's Morocco, Algeria, Egypt, Kanem Bonu, which is now Cameroon, Chad, and Nigeria, as well as Mali. So these were the areas, African nations that were affected by the slave trade. Right. So as you go on, we're going to share with you. May you kindly also share with us your email addresses, because we're going to share with you the link to the full video, so that you have an appreciation of everything. From also the speech by former President Thabo Mbeki, he also talked about identity crisis, because there is this part where he says, I have seen the corruption of minds and souls of the pursuit of an effort to perpetrate a veritable crime against humanity. I have seen concrete expression of the denial of the dignity of the human being emanating from the conscious, systematic, and oppressive and repressive activities of others. So here he's talking about identity crisis, whereby as Africans, we no longer regard or uphold or appreciate and acknowledge our roots and where we came from, which is the reason why there is Africa Day. It says that we reset, we restart, and we realign back to our roots. Back to our roots, right? Because identity crisis is all about, no longer having, no longer knowing who you are as a person, what you stand for. And it usually happens where there's a lot of external forces telling you that this is who you are. So your people, we actually went through slave trade, so this is you, who you are, this is your identity. But we're saying no. um Look at people like many of the Maroons, those people, they rebelled. So my identity is this, right? We should know ourselves such that even no matter how many people come and instill ideas in our brains, we know what we stand for. And then the fifth thing that we notice from this speech is the issue of social vices. So President Thabo Mbeki is saying, I am an African because I know the things that are happening in Africa. There are beggars in Africa, there are prostitutes in Africa, there are street children in Africa, there are people who seek solace in substance use, there are people who still says that they're able to quench their thirst and hunger, there are people who have lost their sanity because to be sane means to invite pain. There are rapists within our community, within the same Africa, which is wonderful things. We have rapists amongst us. And there's the statement that he said, animals who would seek to benefit from the vulnerability of children, the disabled, the old, and women, right? So we are saying within the same, and he also mentioned of murder, right? Because he was saying some people, they actually benefit from murder, because if they kill someone, then they'll be able to be given money such that they survive. In courts, he says they are available for hire when a husband wants to murder the wife, or when a wife wants to murder the husband. So within the same Africa, we are seeing all these things. We are seeing a scramble for minerals, whereby we fight ourselves as Africans. We know about the Rwandan war, the Rwandan genocides, that there are no European forces involved. Amongst ourselves, we are fighting each other as Africa. Then the civil wars, right? And I love there's movies that we acted out so well that talk about this. For instance, there is Hotel Rwanda, and there is this not the Scorpion King. Okay, I'll share the other movies with you. That within the same Africa, we have people, who are who are doing all those things, right? So as Africans, I believe, and I'm sure President Thabo Mbeki was saying, we shouldn't be blind. We shouldn't turn a blind eye to the issues that are happening within our community. We should acknowledge that there is an issue, and we should deal with the issue from the grassroots going up. So there is really need for us to acknowledge all this and to sit down and to say, this is what's happening. These are the social vices that are within Africa. How best can we then move forward and ensure that these are all, we deal with the situation and justice is saved. And lastly, he talks about togetherness, and he talks about how Africans do not tolerate, things that are not straight. For instance, what happened in South Africa, whereby there was a legislation that was passed that upholded segregation and political and economic discrimination. They were not afraid of death. They were not afraid of exiles. They were not afraid of imprisonment. They were not afraid of, all of those things. They went to the streets and they advocated such that their voice is heard. So that's also one thing about Africans. We know our rights and we stand up for what is right. So let us continue upholding that. So I love the speech by President Becky because it is a well-rounded speech. It talks about the positives. It also talks about the challenges we are facing as a continent and how best we can put ourselves on the map, how best we can regroup and uphold our values and move forward. Okay, so Madame Ruvimbo, are you now in the house? Madame Ruvimbo. Madame Ruvimbo Kwaramba, how are you? Can you hear me? Please confirm if you can hear me. Okay, as soon as you're in here, please tell me. So today's Africa Day celebrations, the whole program was proudly brought to you by the Tanyarazo Initiative. So what is the Tanyarazo Initiative? The Tanyarazo Initiative is a change agent that is aimed at encouraging women to rise above competition and to smartly deal with the problems at hand through skills trainings and providing access to opportunities for all. Our vision is a world where women's rights are upheld and respected. So we are there to encourage, we are there to educate, to empower, and to make sure that each and every young person out there is exposed to the opportunities that they require. Right. So we envision a world where women, they are recognized by their skills, their capabilities, their talents, and not by the mere fact that they are women. We do not believe that women should be given opportunities just because they are women, but we are saying give a woman access to education, give her access to get knowledge and skills, give her access to opportunities, encourage her, right? Encourage her to show you a woman has to prove herself. She needs to show her qualifications. We cannot say we are going to put you as a leader just because you're a woman. No, you are going to be elevated because you have the skill, the talent, and the capabilities. We do not deserve any mercy, but we are saying do not disregard our opportunities because there are certain instances whereby you're not given a leadership opportunity just because you're a woman. You have everything, but just because you're a woman, you are not given those opportunities. But we are saying women, they are very much capable. They have the skill, they have the talent, they have the qualifications and the capabilities. So give them the throne as long as she knows what she's doing. Do not disregard her just because of gender. Give her the opportunities. If she has proven that she's the woman for the job, give it to her. That's what we advocate for as an organization. And to do that, there are certain projects that we have. We have a project called Shepreneur. We have a project called Shepreneur. So this project is aimed at making women financially independent. We advocate for the emancipation of women because we believe that most of the challenges that women are facing in as far as gender-based violence or intimate partner violence are concerned is because maybe women are too much dependent on their partners. So we are saying give her access to financial assistance, give her expose her to financial literacy skills so that she knows how best to support herself, because pretty much in households where there's a lot of GBV, for instance, the woman you tell her, please leave, but she will never leave that abusive relationship because she's thinking, if I leave, then what? Where will I go? Right? Where will I go? What do I do next? Right? So we are saying we advocate under this project, we advocate for the financial emancipation of a woman, and we do that by encouraging her through skills trainings. and development. We also have the reproductive health project. So cervical cancer ranks as the first most frequent cancer among women in Zimbabwe, with breast cancer as as the second. It is disheartening that most lives are being claimed due to late detection and delayed diagnosis. As such, this project is aimed at raising awareness with regards to the female reproductive system, such that every woman knows how to differentiate the normal from the abnormal at an early stage. This project is also about the female reproductive health system and the various gynecological health conditions the system is exposed to. Under this, we also talk about making healthy decisions in relationships. We also talk about HIV and AIDS as well as the STIs. We also talk about vaginal irritations and various conditions that affect the female reproductive health. And then we also have what we call the self-love project, because we believe that an empowered woman is a woman who's self-aware and clear about her identity, and also knowing your African roots as part of your identity. So you cannot be an empowered woman who's an identity crisis, who is ashamed to call herself an African. And I would call you crazy because of all the things that we've mentioned. Being an African is, it's something to be proud about. Harness it, go on it, right? So real empowerment starts from forgiving your past, embracing your uniqueness and imperfections, accepting yourself, and building self-esteem and confidence. Identity crisis makes a woman vulnerable to abuse in the community, in the corporate world, and various spheres of life. As such, this project is all about self-awareness, self-honesty, self-acceptance, self-care, self-compassion, self-forgiveness, self-trust, self-esteem, self-empowerment, self-respect, self-honor, self-expression, and self-development. Right. So, and then our second from last project is called the climate change. These are okay, we make impacts within the community. I've stated what the Tanyarazo initiative is all about, our vision and our mission. So the question now is, how do you then go into the community and create impact? How do we then achieve the mission and the vision? So we do that through this project. This is how we penetrate the community. This is how we make impact within the community. So the fourth project is called the Climate Justice Project. So climate change isn't just about the changing weather. The effects range from floods, droughts, and cyclones, which in turn might increase the risk of violence against women and girls, increase the risk of child marriages, and cause shortages in food and means of survival. In March 2019, Cyclone Idai hit Zimbabwe, hit the residents of Chimanimani. Chimanimani is the town that was affected by Cyclone Idai. So we are saying that when that cyclone hit that part of Zimbabwe in 2019, the effects are still there, even present day, right? So the $1 million question is, how can young female adults in Zimbabwe ensure that the effects of climate change are alleviated? This project is aimed at answering the question by bringing feminist solutions to the climate change issues. And the last project that we have is called the Speakers Forum Project. So the organization's mission is to encourage women to rise above competition. And one way of...
Dans ce dernier cas, l'acheteur n'a pas...
Okay, may you please mute? Okay, so one way of doing so is honing your public speaking skills. A great leader must harness the skill of confidently talking to the public with charisma. As such, this project is aimed at making you an affluent speaker. This project will ensure that young women are equipped and exposed to relevant grooming and etiquette issues. So if you have been paying attention and there's a particular project that you'd want to join and you feel like, you know what, I think I'm in need, this area of my life really needs a bit of vamping, this area of my life really needs to be panel beated, be it having a clear understanding of climate justice issues, being public speaking skills, being self-love, reproductive health, and entrepreneurial skills. Please do not hesitate to contact me in my inbox, says that we go forward. So I've been doing a lot of talking. I've been doing a lot of talking. It's now time for us to have introductions. So from these introductions, you're going to be saying your name, your country, and what Africa Day means to you. So I'm just going to be using the order that is there on my... I'm going to be using the order that is there is displayed on my chat box. So we are going to start with Madame Brenda Oceano, and then after Madame Brenda, we'll then have Achen. So I can see that Achen was the only one listening. Okay, so our dear guest, thank you so much for joining us. To those who have just joined, just in front of your name, may you please rename, put your country in front. So how do you do that? When you press on participants, on your bottom right corner, there is a part that you must see that says, no, when you click on your name, when you click on your name, there is a part that says rename. So just in front of your name, you just say Malawi, Sierra Leone, or as we go. So please do so, just rename. So we'll start with Madame Brenda, and then we'll go to Achen, and then we'll go to Madame Ada. In that order: Brenda, Achen, and then Ada. You're going to answer the question that's displayed on the screen. What is your name, the country you're coming from, and what Africa Day means to you? Over to you, Brenda.
Good morning, team. Pleasure to be here and pleasure to participate in the discussion. My name is Brenda Otieno from Kenya, and I believe for me, the African Day, it means a celebration of our culture and everything African. And I think I love, drawing from what you just said, I love the aspect whereby you said we cannot have empowered women who are having like identity crisis. And I think one of the key things that we have been having even as an African people is an identity crisis, whereby I believe out of socialization or probably interaction, we are being told that African or being African is inferior and everything Western is superior. So for me, African Day is very important and key because it enables us to rethink and of course, re-clarify or redefine what being African means, because at the end of the day, being Black, being African does not mean that we are inferior. We can still compete with the Western world. We can still enjoy our culture. We can still pick out the good things that work for us as Africans and still be at the top of the game. So for me, I tell all African women and all the women in this group, let us embrace our Africanicity. Let us use it as let us use it as our we can use it as a tool to even advance, because we are unique and we are still as good and even better than even the Western world. So let us not shun being African. Let us not shun our Africanicity, but let us pick the good things that work for us as African and advance our Africanicity. Thank you, and back to you.
Wow. That was just an amazing thing. And thank you so much for the words of encouragement. Indeed, it is a privilege to be an African. We mentioned the things, guys, people died for these respective countries of ours. We are so special. It's our heritage. We should honor it, we should embrace it, and we should, be proud of our, of our Africanicity, as Madame Brenda rightfully said. Thank you so much for the wise words of wisdom, Madame. We are so excited to have you in the house. Over to you, Madame Achen, your name, your country, as well as what Africa Day means to you.
Thank you so much. Hope I can be heard. Good morning, everyone. My name is Clavin Achen. I am from Uganda. I am a Ugandan from Uganda. Africa Day it should be a big day for all Africans, for everyone who identifies as an African, because it's a day where we celebrate our roots, we embrace ourselves, we celebrate the beauty in the African culture in ourselves. This day means a lot to me because it reminds me of where we are coming from, the toils and everything that our ancestors went through, the sufferings and the sacrifices they went through to put us where we are today. It reminds me of all that, and it's a very big day for everyone who identifies as an African. It also shows that we are strong people and we should keep toiling so that the future ahead of us is as bright as the future they created for us today. Thank you. Over to you.
Wow, that was amazing. Indeed, we shouldn't let throw away the good things that we've done. Like what you're saying, they did their part and they gave us the button stick. So it's now our responsibility to move with that button stick. They gave us the liberty and the independence that we wanted. So it's time for us to maintain and to ensure that we deal with all the social vices that are there as Africans. It takes you and me to create a good and a better Africa. Thank you so much for those wise words. So to those who have just joined us, may you kindly rename yourselves. You put your name and then in front of your name, you just put the country that you're coming from. So how do you do this? On participants, you just click on your name and then there is a part that says rename. Right. So moving on, Madam Eda Nyirenda, your name, your country, and then what Africa Day means to you.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Eda Nyirenda from Malawi. And I'm a Malawian, I can say. So African Day, to me, African Day means it's a day, it's like an opportunity where we get to celebrate the diversity and success of Africans. It's a day we get to remember our freedom and how we are faring so far. Yeah, that's what African Day means to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam. That was a very powerful point because we appreciate what happened. We also assess our current position, and then we also find means and ways of creating a sustainable tomorrow. So thank you so much for bringing in that aspect of taking into consideration the past, the present, and the future. Thank you so much for that. And Nolowaze Ndlovu. Madam, your name, country, and what Africa Day means to you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nolwazi Ndlovu, and I'm from Zimbabwe. So what Africa Day means for me, first of all, I think it's all about embracing our diversity. We're looking back at history, not just our failures, but also successful milestones that we have achieved as Africa. Secondly, it's also about remembering the great heroes that fought the war of independence. And I personally pride in that because it shows that within us lies so much courage, lies so much determination, and in the power of oneness, it means that we can achieve so much. And lastly, I think it's also about celebrating the milestones so far that we have achieved as Africans. I think someone talked about creating, redefining, and rethinking the Africa that we want. Yeah, I think that's what it means for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam. Thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for bringing to attention that it's not only about failures, guys. We have a lot of success stories. A lot of Africans were doing well throughout the globe. A lot of Africans who passed on, but they left a mark on the world. Let's celebrate those because they are a resemblance and they are a sign that it can be done and you are able to do it in Africa, from Africa. You don't necessarily need to move within Africa. You can be great and you can do exploits. Thank you so much for also talking about celebrating the milestones and the heroes as well, because that is very, very important. Thank you so much for that. We have Zohal I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that well, but may you kindly tell us your name, the country you're coming from, and then what Africa Day means to you.
Okay, thank you. First of all, my name is Ahmed, from South Sudan. I hope you might have knowledge about it. So I may just add something more concerning the African Day, as you have all said it before. So for me, an African Day is just it's a day which can acknowledge us the progress that the Africans have made while reflecting upon the common challenges we face in global, regional, and local contexts. Furthermore, it commemorates the foundings of the Organization of African Unity on these days. So I think the days in which it was formed to be formally celebrated, it was on 25th May 1963. So I think it means a lot to us as Africans, and it means a lot of us to celebrate, to acknowledge it. So that's an African Day for me. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much for that. That was very, very powerful. Thank you so much for bringing to our attention the issues of progress and evaluation. Thank you so, so much, sir. I see Madame Ruvimbo, you are raising your hand. Is this a sign that you're back in the game?
Yes, apparently my network is going on and off.
Okay, we are so glad to have you in the house. So, okay, it's all right, madam. So first we're going to have opening remarks from me. Okay, so apparently everyone introduced themselves. Please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Tanyarazwa Guta. Tanyarazwa is a Shona name, which means we have been comforted. So I'm from the nation of Zimbabwe, and I'm very much happy to be here. And Africa Day to me means pretty much everything that you have said. It means we are acknowledging, we are appreciating, we are taking into cognizance of, we are appreciating everything that was done before, we are evaluating everything that's happening, and we are getting into the systems and the problems that are happening in our communities and saying this is what's there, these are the problems that are there, what can we do as a nation, what can we do as Africa, how can we hold our hands together. And I'm so glad that as we speak, there is Agenda 2063 that says what is the Africa that you want and what are the possible strategies that we can implement to ensure that the Africa that you want is in existence. We have AFT. Yes, those trading and exporting, they're trying by all means to make sure that how can we trade as Africans within Africa, how can we reduce the duties that are involved, how can we reduce the expenses that are involved in as far as exporting within Africa is concerned, how can we help each other as Africans. So I think that's the direction that we should take as Africans, saying these are the problems, but how do we rise together? Because it really doesn't make sense that one African country is very, very powerful and yet another African country is struggling beyond measure. So I feel like this is also a day whereby we share strategies, we share best practices on how we can move forward as Africans, because we are one. Mama Africa is the same. So that's what I believe. And I think I'll give it to you, Madam Ruvimbo. I think you were not there when we're doing introductions. You just tell us your name, your country, and then what Africa Day means to you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nyarazwa, for the floor. My name is Ruvimbo Kwaramba. I am a Zimbabwean citizen. Africa Day means the day that Africa or African countries came together in collaboration and celebrating the freedom from the struggles of colonization and the village in the community of brotherhood. Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Hence, this day is very, very important for the African continent, considering that we have the African Union, which was established by 2025 May, and considering that it is our point of saying we're supposed to be a one nation instead of saying, no, we are Zimbabweans, South Africans, but at the end of the day, we are all Africans. We come from the same bloodline of brotherhood, of Africanicity. This is how I see and what it means for me for African Day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam. Those are very, very powerful points. Indeed, we are one. We should really appreciate where we're coming from. Those were very, very powerful points. So, Madam, please allow me to hand over cheering rights back to you. I've been doing a lot of talking. So there you go. I'm ceding your over to you. Please take over.
I think since we have done the right. Considering our program, we have done the introduction. I think everyone has mentioned their names, their countries, and what they've understood with the whole program. At the same time, I'm hoping with the certain time that I missed, people knew the unpacking of the Africa Day theme for Agenda 2063. Moving forward, I think.
Sorry?
Hello?
Yes, we managed to do the introductions for just on opening remarks. I just wanted to say welcome to everyone. Thank you so much. Those I said this before, but I'll just say it for the sake of those who joined late. Thank you so much for dedicating your Africa Day to this particular session. This is a point where we share ideas, practices. If you have anything that you'd want to share or to say, please feel free to use the chat box. If you have a comment, if you have a suggestion, if you have a question, based on the things, or maybe if you are in support, you have a strong comment that you want to say, please feel free to use the chat box, and please feel free to communicate anything that you'd like to communicate. So all I want to say is we are one, and I am very much excited to have this. We're going to be having over 10 speakers today. We're going to talk to us about their respective countries, how they're contributing towards the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So please do use this opportunity to see what other countries are doing, and you can also ask questions that do you face this kind of a challenge in your respective country, and how do you deal with it? This is the space, this is the opportunity, because like I said, one country cannot be doing so well whilst the other is struggling. You understand? So this is the time for us to share ideas. This is what's happening in Zimbabwe. Maybe you can apply it in the other nations, so that we share ideas and we share best practices. So that is all I can say at the moment. And before we go forward with our program, there are two videos that I would want us to watch. Okay, let me just see. Just a second. Can you hear? Is the sound okay?
Papi land is good, the land is fine. Gold we have, diamonds we mine. Yet we fight, we cover it all in blood. Tell me why we wallow in the mud. Africa, 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 yeah. Mama Africa, we cry for peace. Africa. The land is good, the land is fine. Gold we have, diamonds we mine. Yet we fight, we cover it all in blood. Tell me why we wallow in the mud. Africa, 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 yeah. Mama Africa, we cry for peace. Africa, 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 yeah. Mama Africa, we cry for peace. Africa. Africa, 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 yeah. Mama Africa, we cry for peace. Africa, 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 yeah. Mama Africa, we cry for peace. Africa. Nisambuka tigi kayora, nisambuka tigi kayora, nisambuka tigi kayora, nisambuka tigi kayora. Tell me why you fight. Tell me why we fight. Tell me why you fight. Tell me why we fight.
Okay. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you were entertained by the two videos that we sent to you. Kindly confirm if you can hear me in the chat box. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, that's fine. Okay. So we just shared with you two powerful videos. So okay, so we just shared with you two powerful videos. So those powerful songs, they are by influential African musicians. So the one that you saw last is from Wilaya, she's from Ghana. And the previous one, the first one, is from a local musician. His name is Ja Proiza. Okay, so as I was saying, okay, so as I was saying, those two songs that we just shared, those two songs that we just shared, they're from two influential African musicians, Wilaya from Ghana and Ja Priza from Zimbabwe. So Wilaya, the last song that you just saw, this song is about Africa, right? So she highlights that Africa has all the riches in the world, yet we fight over them instead of coming together and benefit our great continent. So you can see from the lyrics that she was saying that the land is good, the land is fine, gold we have, diamonds we mine, yet we fight, we cover it all in blood, which reminds me of a movie that's called Black Diamond. You remember the movie, right? Tell me why we wallow in the mud. Africa, Mama Africa, we cry for the peace, Africa. And she also says that, tell me why you fight, tell me why you fight. What's the reason? What's the reason? What's the reason? Because if Mama Africa gave us the resources, then it means we have to use the resources well for the benefit of everyone, but that's not what's happening. So she also brings to our attention some of them, the civil wars that we're talking about and the fights that happen amongst ourselves of Africa. Why are we fighting over these things? It also talks about the leadership in our respective Africas. They should stand up and make sure that the resources they are kept well so that people do not fight, but they're equally distributed and people are equally happy with the governance of that country, because at the end of the day, it's for the people, by the people, for the people, by the people. Yes. And the first song by Ja Praiser. So this one is culture, right? I know that the person who's going to present on Zimbabwe is going to talk more about the Zimbabwean culture, but in his song, you see that from the start to the finish, it was in Shona, which is the language for, am I still on mute? I see a comment that's saying I'm on mute. Am I still on mute?
No,
hello?
We can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. So the first song by Ja Praiser, it will give you an understanding of the Shona culture. So the song is called Ticheneke, right? So Ticheneke in Shona, it means cleansing, right? So it's sort of like poetry that reminds us of the long lost traditional homage, the cultures that we have forgotten as a nation because of globalization, right? So Okay, so according to the Shona culture, the creator, who's God, we call God or the creator Mwari, is omnipotent. However, we believe in the creator who's God, but we also recognize ancestors and other spirits that serve as intermediaries between Mwari and the people. So the song Ticheneke is a reflection of the Shona culture. So in a song, he talks about identity crisis when he was saying pane mazwi nemashoko ekuramba kutsanangudza zvizere pamusoro peuso hwako. Ndaramba ndabvunza ndikati ndacherechedza zvikanzi tarisa uone hapachina chika chakachena kana chingaenderane. So they are saying that the problems that you're facing is because you've forgotten who you are as a person. You have this illness or this problems because you no longer know who you are as a person. So Teacher Neke, it evokes this person, because of the issues that he has, he wants to be cleansed. So the Shona believe that we believe in the creator was Mwari, right? We also value totems, which are used to identify different tribes from ancestors. Like for instance, if it's an elephant, some people, they say they are from the elephant tribe, right? So they are called anasamanyanga, right? Because of the horns that the elephant have. That's, we believe in totems, right? So it has been a pragmatic norm that the Shona people pray to appease the ancestral spirits, and we appease ancestral spirits to ensure good health, good reign, and success in business. So in this song, Japraiser was reminding people of the forgotten practices that we used to do. So he mentioned a word called kubvunzira, which means asking the gods, because magic and witchcraft are also some of the practices that were done in ancient days. So Shona people, they believe in two kinds of spirits. They are what we call Shave, which is wandering spirits, and then we have Vadzimo, which is spirits of the ancestors. So both of this, they can be bad and good, because evil spirits are a result of witchcraft and they can cause disaster. So that's the whole song. That's why you saw that they were dressed culturally, and the dances that they were doing is a reflection of the Zimbabwean Shona. In Zimbabwe, we have different tribes, but he was reflecting or showing us the Shona culture. So those are the two songs that we just wanted you to note. And this is here we have a fun fact. It's not a fun fact, it's just a fact for you to know that Africa is home to over 1 billion people who speak over 1,500 different languages. 1 in every 4 of the world's languages are spoken only in Africa. So with the videos and with this quotes, it's time for me to rest. Over to you, Madame Ruvimbo. Madame Ruvimbo is going to be helping us in knowing or getting more information about the Africa Day theme, as well as Agenda 2063, what those two mean and what we are called to do. So, Madame Ruvimbo, are you ready? Madame Ruvimbo.
Hello.
Yes, are you ready? I'll make you host so that you can share your screen. Is that okay?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Okay, you're now host. You can share your screen.
All right, let me do so.
Oh.
Is it showing? Hello?
Not yet on my screen. I'm not sure of the others if it's showing. Screen is not showing. You see share screen?
Let me see what I can do.
Yes.
Can you now see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen now.
Oh. So we are going to unpack the theme for the Africa Day celebration. This was supposed to be presented by Kundai Ngwena from the African Union Economic, Social and Cultural Council. So this is what you're going to start with. The Africa Day theme marks the 60th African Union anniversary that came from OAU. Our Africa, our future is our theme. As part of the commemorations, we're supposed to showcase how we have succeeded from the whole sense of implementing Agenda 2063. But I'm most definitely certain that most people know what Agenda 2063 is before I move on with what I'm saying. If there's any show of hands or any comment so that I move forward. Hello?
I think we are good. You
Okay.
can go on with the presentation. If there are any, after you're done with the presentation, I think you can do the whole presentation. And if the guys have any comments, they can put them on the chat box so that we address them at once.
So moving on, the next part is actually explaining Agenda 2063. The African Union adopted Agenda 2063 in January 2015 in Addis Ababa after the 24th African Union Summit. They had a vision whereby they have 7 aspirations through the extensive consultations from stakeholders from the cross-country across several nations and spheres of Africa, from the African people actually. These aspirations had to reflect the desire of shared prosperity, well-being, unity, integration, a free continent with expanded horizons, where the full potential of women, youth, boys, and girls are realized with freedom from fear, disease, and want. The 7 aspirations of Agenda 2063 are an envision of Africa with a good health, good well-being, and leaving no place or no one behind. The aspirations of the Africa we want are a prosperous African-based inclusive growth and sustainable development, an integrated continent politically united and based on ideals of Pan-Africanism and the vision of Africa's renaissance. An Africa of good governance, democracy, respect of human rights, justice, the rule of law. The 4th one is based on peace and a secure Africa. The 5th one is based on a strong cultural identity of common heritage and shared values and ethics. An Africa whose development is people-driven, relying on the potential of African people, especially women and youth, and caring for the children who are going to be our future leaders for the next generation, as well as a strong, united, resilient, and full of global players and international partners. Moving on.
Sorry, madam. Sorry.
Sorry.
May you please, okay, the person has just gone out. I just wanted to say, may you please, the other members, when you get into the session, just mute your mics so that it doesn't interfere with the presenter. You can continue. Thank you.
So considering the aspirations we've mentioned before, there's an annual basis whereby African Union members gather for the February summit of the 12th extraordinary summit, right? Held in May. One of the outcomes was continental free trade Africa. This is Africa. I'm not so certain of how best I can pronounce it, but it's African continental free trade area. This was adopted and signed on the 21st of March 2018 in Kigali, Rwanda. This is one of the forces whereby it established the largest free trade in the world with a high number of participating countries. And in accordance to the World Bank 2022, trade area consolidated a market about 1.3 billion in 55 African Union member states, combining the GDP of 3.4 trillion. This is a clear sign of how much potential that Africa has, considering that if we put our partnerships and our minds together to give an economic development and economic growth, it will work so that we push ourselves out of poverty and increase the income of the continent by $470 billion. This is in USD, by the way. Moving on, there's this regional context whereby there's an aim to act these figures in reality in terms of business forums, exhibition affairs, conferences, and human-centered investment and trade. For example, Zimbabwe Mozambique Business Forum, Zimbabwe International Trade Fair, Transform Africa Summit. These are more of the several legal conferences and signed statements and exhibitions of high-level discussions on how best we can increase and improve the economic status of the whole of the African continent. Moving on, this exhibitions and information mentioned before seeks to mobilize solutions in solidarity of creating linkages between the member states of AU bodies, private sector, development practitioners, and other relevant stakeholders to implement a continental trade agreement. We can have so many currencies in Africa, but at the end of the day, we are one people. And as much as that is the case, we need several resources from each other. And just because of that, we're supposed to have a proper trade agreement so that we do not have any form of conflict and not any country is going to be taken advantage of in terms of their own money and their resources. So the benefits of ACFTA is economic emancipation, poverty alleviation, improved livelihoods, inclusivity of women and youth, development of SMEs, of the SME sector, reindustrialization, if I'm not mistaken. So explaining these benefits, we have this whole situation whereby we now have women CEOs in different companies. We have youth programs in different companies and NGOs or CSOs, which deal with different trade unions. At the same time, we're trying to have this aspect whereby as long as we own a business, it's supposed to benefit the African community. Hence, we're supposed to give you that leeway. You can have the resources needed regardless of whatever you're aiming for, as long as it's benefiting Africa and the economy at its largest. So the last PowerPoint talks about what does this mean to the ordinary citizen. This is the greatest opportunities for entrepreneurs from a small scale to a large scale, depending if it's a national business or an international organization in terms of dealing with economic growth. This increases the opportunities of export market, the engagement of the government, potential arms in terms of Zim trade, And then Mozambique has its one called APX. It also provides information in terms of seminars and opportunities of trade and export. And there are some exhibition shows that also run annually with a high attendance to be aspired in terms of the business that you want to implement or you want to grow with that sense of an inclusive Africa. With much said, this is the end of this particular presentation in unpacking the theme of Africa Day celebrations. Thank you. Hello? Hello?
Okay, greetings to you all. So the presentation about Ethiopia, I hope I'm audible. Maybe you can just confirm me,
Yeah,
like,
you're
am I
very
audible or
clear.
not? Okay, thanks a lot.
We can
So,
see you.
yes, let's jump into the presentation about Ethiopia. And I want to say that Happy Africa Day to you all, and thank you so much for having me on. I'm deeply honored and delighted to be here and to celebrate this amazing day with you. Let me share my screen. Is it visible?
It's not yet showing.
Is it
I
visible?
think it shows, yeah, it's now visible. It's not.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much. So just to tell you a little bit introduction about Ethiopia. Ethiopia has more than 3,000 years of civilization, and Ethiopia has its own calendar, alphabet, and numbers, and it's a home of 100 million plus people and a home of 80 plus cultures and languages. And when it comes to location, Ethiopia found in the Horn of Africa. And maybe just to show you, this is how Ethiopian alphabet looks like. I hope it could be just something new that you never seen it before. So on the left side of the screen, this is Ethiopian alphabet. So we have been using this for over 3,000 years, and we also have our own numbers. So this is how Ethiopian numbers looks like. It starts from 1 to 10, then also the 1,000 and the 100. And I have one quiz for you all. Is there anyone that knows this place by any chance? Just get in the chat box. Do you know this place by any chance? Maybe you can unmute yourself and just respond.
No.
Okay, I give you just a few seconds to think. I mean, it's very familiar. It like last chance if there is anyone wants to try. Okay. So to respond this is a headquarter of African Union in Ethiopia. Because like today we're talking about the Agenda 2063 and African Continental Free Trade Area, which directly links with the African Union. And when we celebrate this Day of African Day, we are promoting unity. And one of the organization that makes us unite is African Union, and its headquarters in Ethiopia. I really hope so. Like maybe one day you will able to get an opportunity to visit it. When it comes to landscape and weather, Ethiopia has a diverse climate and landscape. We have equatorial rainforest, and we have a huge mountains like Samen and Bali mountains, and we also have the lowland areas and plateau mountains. So pretty much it's a beautiful scenery. And when it comes to weather, we have 4 seasons: the dry and the winter and the summer seasons as well. And so when it comes to the flag of Ethiopia, this is how the flag of Ethiopia looks like. And the blue represents peace, and the yellow hope, justice, and equality, and the red sacrifice for freedom and also equality, and the green on the above, it represents the development, the economic integrity, and the fertility of land. The stars in the middle, it represents the unity of all Ethiopian nationalities. In Ethiopia, there is, as I said, more than 80 cultures, and it shows that we are diverse, but we are also united. Like our difference is our beauty. And the rays, those yellow rays, they represent the bright prospect for the future to Ethiopian people and the Ethiopian country. And if you are wondering how it sounds, the national anthem of Ethiopia, just let me play the video. It's just very short. So this is how it sounds when it comes to the national anthem, and it promotes unity, hardworking, and love. As you said, because there was also the English version of it. I hope you get a chance to see also the English version of it. When it comes to the historical sites and place to visit, by any chance, if you come to Ethiopia, there are heritage and UNESCO heritage sites that you can visit. The first one is Lalibela, which is rock-hewn church. So this is Lalibela, from the right side of the picture, and it's also one of the UNESCO heritage sites. The second one is Aksum, and it's built like 3,000 years ago, and it's also on the left. I'm just pressing on the picture so that you'll able to see it. The other one is Semen Mountain National Park. It's also one of the heritage sites of UNESCO. And there is also Tiya, and the other one is Harar, which is the fourth holiest city of Islam. The other heritage site is Omo River. So just to give it a look, this is also the other heritage site, which is Gondar. It was a palace like few hundred years back. It was a palace for one of the Ethiopian king, and his name is Fasil. So now it's one of the UNESCO sites in the name of Ethiopia. And this is Lalibela, this is Aksum, and this is also Harar, the first holy city of Islam. And let's say if you travel to Ethiopia, and the capital city of Ethiopia is Addis Ababa, so which is the headquarter of African Union is also found in Addis Ababa. So if you come, there are places that you can enjoy and see the traditional food, the traditional dance and cultures of Ethiopia. And one of the places, Yoda Abyssinia, traditional food. And there is like amazing, delicious food. I don't know if there is anyone who ever been to Ethiopia. Maybe you can tell about the foods of Ethiopia. So this is one of the places you see the dance and you try the drink in Ethiopia, which also found in Addis. The other traditional place that I recommend is
It destroys this hour, self-duty tickets ahead of Reserve Bank announcement and weather warning issued for Cape Town. Good morning.
sorry, please unmute your mic because it's just also the distraction. This is also traditional instruments. Please unmute your mic, please. So those are traditional music instruments of Ethiopia. So you can just see this is a traditional drum of Ethiopia, and this one I can say it like it's a traditional guitar for Ethiopians. So those are traditional instruments, so that you can also enjoy the traditional music of Ethiopia. In Ethiopia today, when it comes to political system, we follow a parliamentary and multi-party system, and our national currency is birr. You call it Ethiopian birr, and Ethiopia is the second African country in terms of population number, next to Nigeria. And when it comes to religion, we have mainly two popular religion, which is Christianity and Muslim, but also there's some fraction of number who follow a traditional faith, and a very also little number of Judaism. And now the interesting part, Ethiopian dish. So those are, I mean, we have many so many dishes, but like I just choose fur because like I cannot put all of them on this slide. So the first one is we call it kutfo. So it's actually a raw meat, and this one is injera. It's made up of teff, and teff is a very popular in Ethiopia. We have been consuming teff like as according to the data more than 3 years. It's as early as our civilizations. This is we call it in Amharic. We call it kocho. It's made up of false banana. So yes, it's very interesting. And this one is, the name of this food is dorowet. It's actually chicken, but we put a lot of spices on it. So there is garlic, there is onion, and there is chili. So how it looks like. And we also eat this with the injera with the teff, which is made up of teff. And if you are vegetarian or vegan by any chance, if you are traveling to Ethiopia, we also have a lot of foods to accommodate you, and this is one of the popular vegan food of Ethiopia. And most of the people they use it during the fasting season. So it's, as you see, it's a mix of different things. There is lentil, and there is also shiro, which is made of beans, there is carrots, and there is also Ethiopian cabbage. So it's just made up of a lot of things. And we also use that with injera. And the other one is, it's shiro. It's one of, maybe it's one of popular food in Ethiopia. And actually it's my favorite. So it's just made up of bean flour. And we put it like garlic and onion and chilies as well. So these are just for food of Ethiopians, just for the sake of this presentation. When it comes to beverage, there is a lot of beverage, but I choose two for this presentation. The first one is itaj, like It's made up of traditional herbs in Ethiopia and with honey. This one is the name of this drink is the light. Actually, both of the drinks they have some alcoholic content. So most of the time, the children they don't really drink it. Mostly the adult people drink it, and it's quite popular for holidays, for Ethiopian New Year, and for other religious festival and holidays. We consume this drink. The other popular thing about Ethiopia is Ethiopian coffee. So this is just a picture that represents how Ethiopian coffee ceremony looks like. So this is Ethiopian coffee, and it's also quite popular. When it comes to the traditional cultural outfits, those are some of the outfits that's very popular in Ethiopia. And this is a traditional dress from the Amhara region, and this is the elders' traditional dress from Sidama region, and this is also a lady's outfit from Oromia region, and this is a cultural outfit from Walaita. So this is how some of the traditional outfits looks like, and we also use jewelry, as you see on their neck and on their head. They also put some of the jewelry, so I can say that it's also quite popular using the jewelry in traditional outfit of Ethiopia. This outfit is from Tigray region. It's Habesha Kamis. Actually, the name of the dress is Habesha Kamis, and they put a jewelry. And if you see the herring styles also different. Here there is a herring style, so it's just quite different. This is a dress from the Harari tribe, the Harari region. And this one is from Gurage tribe. And the last one is from Hammer tribe. The people they found, or they locate around a border to Kenya, and the one of the site that I was mentioning, Omo River, it's found around the South Omo area. So this is the traditional outfits looks like. There is also traditional dance. I have like a very short video. I mean, it could be 30 seconds. I hope maybe you're intrigued to see it. So let me just open the video.